Hey, how's it going? This is Will Spur with Dismal Hymns, and I got Reza Mills with me. We are going over the top five experimental albums. And yeah, so we kind of made a differentiation with experimental using Mr. Bungle as the template, where I said the first Mr. Bungle album would be progressive.
Hmm.
This following album would be experimental. And then the album after that, California, would be more like art rock. So
Yeah.
you made the distinction, but I would say that, on some of these albums, it's anything that deviates from the norm, even with some abnormal bands that we've taken. So they're purposefully, I would say, messing with the formula. A lot of times they're kind of going against the conventions of what's expected from songwriting, what's expected from rock music. Um, I think most of mine come from rock bands and some of Reza's do. So yeah, that's what we're going with. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So when I was sort of preparing for this, it's kind of a difference between being experimental and challenging and just being varied. So, for example, I had briefly contemplated Queen, but even at their most outlandish, they were never inaccessible. I mean, they had a multitude of styles, but it was you don't listen to a Queen record and think, well, that's impossible to get into the same ways you just made a point of with Mr. Bungle. Like it's quite challenging. Queen's not really that, or even Sparks, they're very varied all over the place. But again, they're still quite accessible. I feel like a lot of the things that I've chosen for this particular show could be seen as fairly difficult in places, maybe with the exception of one choice. But for the most part, yeah, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but that's why I love them.
Cool. Well, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I'm going to go. I mean, I decided to go for a different album with this particular artist than what I shared with you. I'm going to go with Ornette Coleman and his album Dancing in Your Head from 1977. Um, Ornette Coleman was obviously an incredibly controversial figure in the world of jazz, much like Cecil Taylor, Albert Ayler, latter day John Coltrane. I mean, there's a lot of critics who hated him because what he was doing, I mean, he created harmonics, an entire genre of jazz, and it's just so out there. Weirdly, Dancing in Your Head is probably weird, strangely catchy, but at the same time still retains that avant-garde appeal, which appealed to the likes of Lou Reed, myself, etc. There's certainly an element of fusion in there, but it's not like cheesy like it is with, say, Weather Report, who are just kind of a bit naff at places. It's kind of a cool funkiness to it at the same time, while still going off into weird and wonderful territory. If you want to hear a really cool cover of Dancing in Your Head, check out a live performance he does in Japan in 1986, because he cranks out a bloody violin. There's a trumpet in there. He's just squealing. It's just going on and on and on, with the weird sort of electro 80s drums. And the Japanese audience, I mean, I love the Japanese, they're just transfixed. So for that reason, it felt like this was going to be my first choice. And it's the first record that ever got me into jazz, a genre that I enjoy, but even to this day, I find a bit baffling. So yeah, that was my choice.
Cool. Um, yeah, that's an album. I mean, I've dabbled a little bit into, but I should probably sit down and give more time to.
Hmm.
Um, with jazz, a lot of like free jazz tends to sound experimental to the average listener because I like one thing I like about jazz is it throws out the rule book just like out the window.
Sure.
And so that in a lot of artists that I like are certainly, I mean, I like jazz, but a lot of artists I like are super into jazz.
Yeah.
Everybody from David Bowie to Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I can definitely appreciate it, and I think that the genre itself lends itself to experimentation.
Certainly, a couple of the artists I'm going to be naming next. Well, certainly the next one after you've put out your first one, I feel were heavily influenced by the genre, especially the free jazz side of things. It infiltrated to artists like the Minutemen and Saccharine Trust and people like that. And when people think jazz, I just hate all that sort of old school root, what I call root to toot jazz, the kind of really, oh dear, just like almost like it's a Jeeves and Wooster novel. The sort of very, very straight ahead. It's fine, it's okay to a degree, but it's quite boring to my ear. So uh, if people think jazz is like that, you definitely need to open your ears a bit and check out the weird and wonderful sounds of Mr. Coleman and his contemporaries.
Cool. Well, speaking of jazz, it definitely transitions into my first pick as, but weirdly enough, it's I guess this is where it gets experimental, is because this album is not a jazz album by him or influenced by jazz.
Hmm.
And I am talking about the 1985 album Frank Zappa versus the Mothers of Prevention,
Hmm.
where he took the Senate hearing that, or the congressional hearing that he went to regarding music censorship in the 80s, and he took the recording of his rebuttal with the congressman and manipulated it to create this like concept album,
Yeah.
um, which is pretty unique. Pretty unique. I mean, he's messing with his own experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it was one of the first Frank Zappa albums I heard too.
Sure.
Um, so I guess this helped kind of draw me in.
Hmm.
It was in my more heavily drug influenced teen years. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Zappa's a weird one, really, because I sort of dip in and out of his work. I mean, oh God, he's released a ridiculous amount of albums. It's almost like the Melvins, who I regularly quote all the time, but it's just sometimes you get a bit overwhelmed by the size of the catalogs. You have to really pick and choose to an extent what you want to listen to. I think I've heard this record, but I'm not overly sure. I know he was sort of influenced by what's he called? People like I think he's called Penderecki, but I'm not sure. That sort of sound collage and all that sort of music concrete. That's the genre I'm looking for. And stuff like that. So he always had that tension between, I guess, regular rock music and the more classical, sort of totally out there sort of things. I guess is what makes him such an intriguing artist.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, he has such a wide breadth of material that you could
Oh
either
yeah.
go with like his psychedelic years, his doo-wop years, his, his synclavier years where he was mainly making orchestral scores. Yeah.
I feel like he followed the jazz Miles Davis type of ethos. Just when you think you figured out what kind of music he's doing, he's going off in yet another direction, making another 10 albums of something
Right.
different. So you
And sometimes
really have,
those were like, quadruple LP albums and things.
yeah. I mean, I like Zappa, but oof, I mean, I can't take him for massive like amounts of time. But when I do listen to him, I do enjoy him for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean his 80s and 70s stuff are my favorite, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I get that.
you know,
Yeah,
one
I
day we'll
like
do
the
it. One day we'll do a Zappa episode.
yeah, I mean, one size fits all. It's all good stuff, but
Right?
yeah, I have to dip in and out because it's just so vast. Cool. Cool, man. So, the next choice I mentioned, I hinted at when I was talking about Coleman and a band who definitely took their influences from jazz. I'm talking about the band Dazzling Kill Men, who can be seen as like the godfathers of that dreaded genre tag, math rock. They're kind of like if you're into bands like Dead Guy, for example, and maybe even Converge later on. Like these are the guys that I feel sort of kickstarted this way of playing. It's like imagine Ornette Coleman's backing band with a hardcore vocalist. And you pretty much that's the kind of vibe that you get with Dazzling Killmen. And it's their second album, Face of Claps. It's so exciting. I mean, it's the three, excluding Nick Sakes, who's a vocalist guitarist, the three guys are, I think they're actually officially um, very skillful jazz players. And Sakes was, at the time, this was his first band, and he was kind of an amateur by his own admission. So it's just a really curious amalgamation of styles, and it's really frantic. A lot of sort of screaming, shouting, a lot of, weird drum fills. It's just really unpredictable. But in a way that's quite captivating. Sometimes I find with this kind of stuff, don't get me wrong, Converge are fine. I like them, but I get kind of a little bit bored after a while. With this, it feels a bit punchier, um, and a bit more abrasive rather than metal, I guess, to my ears. So for that reason, Dazzling Killmen's Face of Claps was my next choice.
Yeah, I was listening to because you're always mentioning these guys, so I finally listened to
Yeah,
this album today.
sure.
And yeah, there's a lot of I could hear a lot of Black Flag influence in
Yeah.
what they do
Oh,
when it
yeah.
comes to the hardcore side. And
Mm,
Black Flag had a willingness to experiment beyond the realms of what punk rock was doing at the time.
mm.
So yeah, I mean I can hear all the where bands like I guess Botch would be the most notable band you can hear kind of spawned off this sound.
Yeah.
Which some of those guys went on to play in Minus there. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
cool. All right.
Cool.
My next one is from 1987. I guess I'm going chronologically. And yeah, it goes back to the high school drug years. It makes me think of, I had like two different friend groups. Mainly, it was like either the heavy metal kids or these like weird outsider kids that did a lot of drugs.
Mm.
And it was one of those kids that turned me on to this album, which is from the Butthole Surfers, it's Locust Abortion Technician. And the Butthole Surfers were a weird band to begin with.
Oh, God, yeah.
Um, but this, they kind of pushed it to the outer regions. I mean, the most accessible song on this album is probably Sweat Loaf, which is a parody of Sweet Leaf.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, yeah, it's almost even hard to describe this album. I mean, it kind of goes, I mean, I guess there's some noise rock you could tie it into, but
Mm.
there's a lot of like, bizarreness for the sake of being bizarre. But I think it was, very intentional and they were playing with sound. They're probably on a lot of drugs themselves. So
Sure.
here we go.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with this record. I mean, first of all, you kind of get an idea that this is going to be a strange list and going by the cover art, which is, what's that term? I mean, there's a specific term for people who are a bit scared of clowns, like I am. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of those because I find them really creepy, even as a kid. So already it's kind of a not an exactly a pleasant album cover. And then, as you say, when the most accessible track is like a Black Sabbath, I don't know what you call it, a parody, reimagining, whatever you want to call it, then it's going to be hard going. But there's always a sense of humor with the band. They're a very skillful bunch of people. I mean, obviously Gibby is well out there, but it's Paul Leary. I feel is like the cornerstone of this band because I think he went gone on to be a quite a big name producer in a way. He's a very very capable musician, and I feel like he's the real unsung hero of the group because I think without him they could have just been like, well, I don't think they would have gotten anywhere personally. I think they would have been even more chaotic. But yeah, you can't go wrong with this one. Like, again, if you're going to say to someone the album to start with for the Butthole Surfers, it'll probably be this one.
And I mean, I think that, in the context And I know for me, I don't think any of my albums go past the 90s. But if you
Yeah.
think about an album from 1987 that I still listen to today, it says
Mm.
something about what they were doing. It wasn't just it, there was something endearing that lasts in the art that they were making. And yeah, I mean, I've mentioned the Butthole Surface before. They're
Sure.
probably one of my favorite 90s bands. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, they almost remind me of like, because I think, I don't know which part of Texas they're from, but they kind of, Texas has a history of producing some really interesting artists. They almost remind me of like a noise rock, Rocky Erickson or something. Just com like, because there's a psychedelic element in there as well. There's a bit of, say, Chrome slash Helios Creed in there as well.
Right.
It's all that kind of vibe too. So basically, I'm saying psychedelic is the kind of, but really fucked up, not sort of hippie, sort of Jefferson Airplane or something. I'm just talking about psychedelic as in done way, way, way too many drugs, and just gone off.
Right. I would also say a darker, noisier version of the Residents would be a
Oh,
fair
yeah, yeah,
marker.
yeah, for sure. No, good choice. Nice one, man. Um, okay, so you mentioned these guys before, and it's Mr. Bungle and Disco Volante. Um, this is, I mean, I love Bungle, and the first album's produced by John Zorn, and then you've got like California, which is actually my favorite record of theirs, but I still feel like there's some big hints of melody in there, and it's like a more twisted version of the Beach Boys in some ways. And then, of course, you got the album they did a couple of years ago, the Wrath of the Raging Easter Bunny. But this record, Disco Volante, I mean, I like it, but it's incredibly messed up. There's techno in there, there's metal in there, there's jazz in there, there's Spanish music, I mean, in England we would say, they've thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, into this record. It's really, really strange. And it's, it's weird because the first self-titled album, it felt like there's still kind of a slight funkiness to it, even though it was weird. But with this record, it's like they abandoned all remnants of melody, all remnants of funk and everything, and just went, "Fuck it, we're just gonna do anything." And it's certainly, I feel like it was a conscious decision in a way from Mike Patton after doing, by his standards, sort of more conventional fare with Faith No More. It almost felt like this was kind of a bit of a middle finger to say, yeah, this is the real me. This is what I like to do. So yeah, for that reason, I mean, it's a uncompromising record, but uh, one that I still feel like every time you listen to it, you get something new out of it. So Mr. Bungle's Disco Volante.
Yeah, so I have a strange relationship with this record because I loved the first album so much. Like
Yeah.
I wore it out in high school, and I mean, I saw him on that tour. It was, and I had it on such a pedestal that
Hmm.
when this album came out, and now looking back, I can understand that this was a reaction to Faith No More.
Yes.
Like he could not have made a more like the lines would have been too blurred, particularly after Angel Dust,
Yeah.
where Angel Dust had moved in almost a more Mr. Bungle-like direction compared to the real thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, this album, he got tired of writing conventional songs, I think. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people call themselves, it manages to be as difficult as, what's that album? What's that first Mike Patton solo album called? Adult Themes for Voice or something like that.
right.
That I could have chosen that because that is unlistenable.
But yeah,
Even as someone like me who loves Patton, that's really hard going. So this, and it's not as extreme as that, but it's still, it needs a bit of work.
I
Definitely.
find now when I go back and revisit it, I can appreciate it more. And it's an album that I think I need to spend more time with.
Sure. Yeah.
Because when you're younger, you're so idealistically attached to certain bands that when they do something to shatter that, then you can't,
Mm.
it's harder to be accepting of. And as you get older, you gain a little more perspective on it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Cool. All right, we're moving right along. I don't think, am I getting into the 90s yet? No, I am not. I'm hovering right there at the edge. And so this one is similar to what Frank Zappa did with uh the mother versus the mothers of prevention. Um, because this band were canceling a tour, so they came up with a sensationalized story, kind of like the Judas Priest controversy, where they claimed that they made it sound like a fake news story where a kid killed his family after listening to their album Christianity is Stupid. And the media bought into it and thought that that was real. And so, yeah, so this is a reaction to that. And it is the 1989 album Helter Stupid by Negative Land.
Yes.
And Negative Land, one of my other drug days of high school bands. I don't understand. I think that it would be challenging for someone that was sober to listen to these albums. Um, the fact that I can now is because I'm working off that old LSD nostalgia, um, which is the state that I listened to them all in.
Sure.
And it came from that same group of friends that introduced me to Butthole Surfers. Because up until this point, I was just listening to metal. Like, Faith No More was one of the first bands that helped me kind of cross over into other kinds of music.
Mm.
Um, and I guess, I had gotten into Jesus and Mary Chain. So it was starting to, and Swan. So I was starting to kind of broaden up a bit, which I needed those to kind of get to a place where I could listen to something like this, which, it's hard to say it's a comedy. I guess in some ways it is. Um,
Mm.
they're just like brilliantly created with sound bites and samples. And, you can hear how a band like Neurosis probably listened to this album and it influenced how they use samples. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's a brilliant concept. And once again, one of those albums that 1989, I can still listen to it today.
Yeah, I think they were on SST at the time, and I first heard about them because of the whole U2 controversy. And yeah, very interesting band. I mean, can you call it music? I mean, it's just sort of a bunch of samples spliced together in essence. But yeah, I enjoy what they do. I kind of put them in the same category as the Residents and people and Zook's Rift and that kind of thing. Kind of heavily experimental. It's not. If you're wanting something with loads of hooks and melody, probably negative. It's not going to be for you. And I think it was named after a Noi track as well, from what I remember.
Right.
Um,
Um, another interesting thing about it is their connection to the Church of Subgenius,
mhm,
which is another rabbit hole you could go down.
sure.
But it's a very worthwhile rabbit hole if you're young and you're doing drugs. But there you go. All right, what you got?
All right. So you were very pleased when I included this one in my list. I'm going to cut straight to it. It's Ween's chocolate and cheese. I've kind of gotten the chronology a bit out of whack. This came before Disco Volante, but who cares? And I see this record as kind of their first. Um, Maybe accessible is not necessarily the best word for it, but it saw them get some coverage on MTV. I remember the song "Can't Put My Finger on It" on Beavis and Butthead, and thinking, "What on earth is this video? It's set in this Greek takeaway, some guys cutting gyro or something, and just the dirty, disgusting chef is singing along as well. What on earth is going on? I was just like absolutely fascinated with it. I was like, who are these guys? And then I did a bit of digging. I saw that obviously Andrew Weiss, who was in the Rollins band, has an involvement with them. And, their songs are so weird. I mean, when you got songs like the HIV song, spinal meningitis got me down, which you pointed out in our Facebook chat. And it's certainly I would say their first record really, which people should dig into if they're wanting to get into Ween, because they did, I mean, 20 demo albums or something ridiculous like that. The two preceding records to this are far more lo-fi. So if you're needing a starting point to the band, it's definitely this record. I mean, it's psychedelic, it's comedy, there's a bit of funk in there, country. You just cannot ascribe one particular genre to these guys. It's just all over the place, but so much fun at the same time. So yeah, chocolate and cheese, and of course, being a teenager at the time, obviously the cover was rather arresting as well. Let's just say. So the chocolate and cheese by Ween's my next choice.
Yeah, it's, a great album. I think, too, I remember hearing how well produced it was and being like, oh, wait, this is like not what I was expecting. But,
Yeah.
I mean, when you have songs like Spinal Meningitis has got me down, just the sticky Vaseline, mommy. Part, is great. And
I
it's
mean, I just
darker in some points, but not. Like it kind of makes me think of it's like two college kids did a bunch of cocaine and listened to Frank Zappa. This is
sure.
the album they would have made, and it's probably the case because the time I saw Dean Ween just had like a mustache of cocaine on his face. Couldn't stop playing solos. And I mean, these guys are better musicians than you would
Oh
think.
yeah, yeah. These
And
are
they progressed with each album. Like I would say Mollusk is a prog album, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. I mean, I just love their audacity almost. I mean, they're on Elektra. That was Metallica's label, and they're so Metallica are playing the fucking Black Album. These guys are coming up with ridiculous albums like this. I mean, the album after this is a freaking country record.
Right.
So they're just like there's kind of that punk fuck you spirit to them. They just don't care. They'll play anything. And I hate country music, but their country record is really good. So they seem to just be able to tackle any genre, and I just love their audaciousness. I love their spirit. So yeah, definitely very cool.
I remember when Steve Austin just put out a Today is the Day, not the wrestler. Just put out a country album.
Yeah.
And I was talking to our friend Tom about it, who's a big Today is the Day fan. And I said, so is this supposed to be like the Lean album? Because it sounds like it's only half serious and half parody. And he was like, no, he's totally serious about
Yeah.
it. All right, cool.
Didn't that dude from the main guy from Yob? I don't know. Did he put out a country record or an acoustic record? I can't remember now.
Yeah,
But
good have. I mean, I like some country, and we're talking about like Sturgill Simpson and Jason Isbell and those,
yeah, I remember you
but
saying.
not pop country, typically.
No, that stuff's horrible. But yeah,
All
cool.
right, let's see. I guess I'll zoom into my next album and we'll knock these out as I get into the 90s here. My first one is 92. I've talked about this album before and definitely a big fan of this project. It's Last Rites by Skinny Puppy. And
Hmm.
yeah, they deviate from the standard, even industrial song formula. And it's incredibly dark and noisy. And when it comes to songwriting, I guess Two Dark Park is technically a better album, but it's just one of those albums that like stuck with me and has always been my favorite Skinny Puppy album. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean, they're a band again. They're one of those bands that I'm aware of that I dip in and out of, and I like what I hear. Definitely. The album I'm most familiar with is The Process, but yeah, that one you mentioned's a good one. But it just probably required a bit more investigation
Right, right.
on my part. I'm
It's
just looking
definitely
at the
more
genre.
abstract than their other stuff.
Sure, yeah, I'm just looking. It's actually got it down as electro, industrial, and noise. So that's
Yeah,
definitely a little bit a bit different. I'm just reading the description. Apparently it features their first ballad as well.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going by Wikipedia, so
All
maybe not the best research, but anyway.
right, what you got?
All right, so these guys are quite obscure, and I'm sure you're pretty much into the underground as well, so they probably have been on your radar. They're a very strange, I suppose, predominantly a trio, possibly a quartet called Nightstick. Um, and I remember seeing the record I'm going to mention is an album called Blotter. I remember seeing the cover in a record shop. They've all got like their tongue sticking out with like acid tabs on. I'm like, who are these guys? What is this? And I kind of like was a bit confused by it, and then I eventually sat down and listened to it, and I was just like, yeah, this is great. This is basically it's Robert Williams from Siege. He was the drummer in Siege, and this is his, I guess, 90s, well, up until the present day, I suppose you'd call it sludge metal, but way more experimental and interesting. Kind of, I see them as sort of in the vein of bands like Acid Bath in terms of, yes, it's sludgy, yes, it's doomy, but it's also weirder as well. There's elements of noise rock-ish in there. They cover a funkadelic tune on here. They cover Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. And it's just so well crafted and so well put together. It's got an irreverent sense of humor. There's a guy called Padoinka the Clown who he doesn't play an instrument. He's like Bez from the Happy Mondays. He just dicks around on stage and dances quite a bit. And so they're a very strange band, but one that produce music that I find absolutely fascinating. I just love because the sludge metal genre and the doom, whatever you want to call that stuff, I mean, I like it, but it can get a little bit sort of monotone in some way, monochrome in its approach. So I love any band that comes along and just fucks things up a little bit. And for me, these guys are it. So yeah, 1996's Blotter by Nightstick.
Cool, yeah. I mean, the only song I've heard on this is their cover of Such Controls for the Heart of the Sun.
Yeah,
But I liked it, and they're one of those bands that I need to spend more time with because,
yeah.
they're very adjacent to the stuff I already listened to.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you like Acid Bath, there's probably a good chance you'll dig these guys. It definitely has that same spirit of just sludge and doom, but just far more interesting than just your standard band of that genre. So,
Right, right. Yeah, 'cause
cool.
that's about kind of mess with that formula and made it darker.
Sure.
All right, my last one is going to be pretty predictable, I guess, from if you know the bands I typically listen to. It's a 1996 album.
Yeah.
It's soundtracks for the Blind by Swans. And yeah, I mean, Swans are one of those bands that are already experimental, but this one was less focused on songs and more focused on sound, but does it in a way that still draws you in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's long as well. I mean,
Right.
in Swan's tradition, I mean, this is mammoth. What was it? Over an hour and a half, I
Yeah,
think.
well, the CD I had of it was a double album too.
Yeah. It's I like it, but yeah, it's pretty full on. I mean, you have to really put aside some time for this. This isn't, you couldn't just wake up and do the laundry to this. This is
Yeah, it was like a
dedicated.
rainy
It's-
afternoon music.
yeah. And you're right, it incorporates everything. There's post rock in there, there's drone, there's ambient, there's music concrete, there's just
Yeah, it definitely leans heavier into the droning ambient of what they do.
sure. And kind of a precursor, I guess, maybe to some of the post 2010 work. And then
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah,
And it kind of reminds me when I was interviewing Jarbo, it made me, her solo album, the most recent one, Sightings made me think of this album a lot. So
yeah, definitely cool. Yeah, no, it's a good one.
cool. Well, there we go. So I guess based on our conversation when we led into this episode, this is kind of I'm going to spring it on us, but I think that next week we'll go with our top five jazz album because that
Hey,
seems to be the most logical place to
yeah,
go from here.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so if you're curious about jazz, I think that this would
yeah. It can be a beginner's
really
guide for some
because
places,
I'm
but
not necessarily an aficionado, but I like what I like, and
I enjoy it, but I haven't a bloody clue how to describe it. I still am baffled by it, but I enjoy what I hear.
yeah, I mean, I think I can pretty much. Well, I mean, I know most of the albums I'm going to pick right now. You know,
Sure.
we'll see what happens. But then I dig into these things, and I'm like, oh no, I forgot about this. Um, but yeah, I have some pretty. It's like anything I listen to. It even in jazz, I like certain qualities
Yeah.
and dynamics, and it has to be dark. Um, or depressing sounding, which I would guess would be more applied to jazz, which I think
Yes.
some of the people is due to their drug problem. Um,
For
so yeah.
sure.
So you guys click all the buttons that you want to click, the subscribe button, the like button. Let us know what you think about experimental music, if you've heard these albums or not, and we will see you next week.